What is going on, Patriots fans? This is Jason Cole back with another edition of the Patriots HAVE podcast. Today, we're going to talk about three and a little bit more, but three of our top options we think the Patriots should pursue in free agency on the offensive side of the ball. We will get into the defensive one next week, but offense first this week. Lots of guys out there that we think could make an immediate impact for this Patriots offense as they were to come in. And the salary cap just got bumped, so the Patriots now have $127 million in cap space. So lots of money to be spent. But make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment down below who you want the Patriots to sign on the offensive side of the ball. And without further ado, let's jump right into the video. Are you tired of trying to find the best deals on tickets to your favorite events, concert, and games? Then SeatGeek is the answer. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. You can find the best deals thanks to their app and website showing you what prices are good and bad. And now you can use code PatriotsDrive for $20 off your purchase. So go ahead and get those tickets you've been eyeing because you don't want to miss out. All right, let's jump right into this. Cole, let's start off with the T. Higgins news. We got some heartbreaking news. I guess it's not official yet. So let's talk about the T. Higgins news that was just released about a day or two ago.
Yeah, the Bengals seem likely to be tagging T. Higgins. Obviously frustrating. That's the second year in a row he's going to be tagged. I think it's going to be like a $26 million cap hit for them.
Like 27, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, something like that, which is, I mean, for 1 year, that's a good value on Higgins. In the open market, he's probably getting 30 a year over 4 or 5 years. So I'm sure he's not super excited about that. I think their goal is going to be to work out a long-term extension. But then another piece of news came out that Jamar Chase is expected to command $40 million a year in an extension with the Bengals. I don't know how you have the funds to support $40 million per year for Jamar Chase, 30 plus for T. Higgins, and what is it, 55 for Burrow?
55 for Burrow. That's like what, guys, over half of their salary, over half the cap space
on more. 3 offensive players. You had one of the best offenses in the NFL last year. Your defense was one of the worst. The only reason that the Eagles won that Super Bowl was because their defense was dominant. You cannot survive on just having offense. Brady threw for 505 passing yards in a Super Bowl and still lost to Nick Foles. Defense is extremely important. It really does win championships, especially when you're competing in the AFC against guys like Mahomes. The only way that he has been slowed down is when you get pressure on him consistently. That's really what it is. So I don't know how the Bengals are going to make it work. If Burrow takes a pay cut, whatever, maybe they figure something out. But if they are willing to move him, try to trade for him on the tag. I still think that's a good option, and then work out an extension. So the Patriots could still theoretically end up with him, but it seems a lot less likely than it did maybe a week ago. So that's some tough news to hear on the T. Higgins front.
Yeah, and we'll preface this by saying T. Higgins would be the #1 option on this list. Now, we'll go into who we think kind of replaces him. For us, it's Chris Godwin. I made this known last episode. I think that I would rather trade for a couple guys in the trade market, DK Metcalf, obviously Garrett Wilson, if that was an option. People have rumored Tyreek Hill, Cooper
Chris Olave.
Yeah, Chris Olave. Like, I would rather trade for a receiver than sign a 31-year-old Chris Godwin coming off an ACL. And also, I don't think he leaves Tampa Bay, right? He's got a charity down there. Him and his wife have been there his whole career. They love it. He probably wants to end there. He's coming off an ACL, so it's like he's not going to be like asking top dollar. I would love Chris Godwin. I think that he would fit really well in this offense. You know, obviously he gets open consistently, really reliable hands. But for me, it's like, I don't know his age, his injury concern coming off. He's the best receiver, in my opinion, on the free agency market. I just don't know how the fit is. There's other guys I'd like to trade for. We will get into a trade video here before free agency ends and, you know, the draft and stuff of guys we'd like for them to target. But that's kind of where I stand on Godwin. Love the player. Just, you know, if this was 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, you know, I'd be like all for it, right? He's 27 years old, sign him for a 3-year deal. Totally agree. But 31 coming off of an ACL is a little bit scary for me.
Yeah, he's entering his age 29 season. He seems older than he is, but
am I thinking of Cup? Cup's 33, right?
Yeah,
Who am I thinking 31? There you go. He's going to be 30 this year, though, right? He's 29 right now.
31. He's 28.9 years old, so he's going to be entering his age 29 season. So still entering close to 30,
Yeah.
coming off an
He's
ACL.
been in what,
That's not great.
7 years in the league.
Yeah, he's been around a while.
Yeah.
He seems like one of those guys that's the same age as Cup and stuff, but he's the youngest out of Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, Stephon Diggs, that trio. He's the youngest out of them. But I do agree with everything you just said. Like the age, the concerns coming off an ACL, him still wanting to be in Tampa. I think that's clear. You don't get the first year coming off an ACL is not typically great performance. We saw it with Kendrick Bourne his first year. It takes that second year typically for them to kind of bounce back. And by that second year, he is going to be 30. He's going to be going into his age 30 season. So I just don't think you're going to be paying for a lot of elite years. And he's projected a 3-year contract for $20 million a year. I don't think you're going to get. You might get 2 solid years there, so I wouldn't mind it if it was a short-term deal necessarily. But I certainly would prefer the trade market. Like you said, he's not that wide receiver 1. He's not going to be that guy for you anymore. I do think he'd be a good fit in the McDaniels system where he plays. But I think there are better options. Certainly T. Higgins would have been one of them, but he is the best guy left on this market as far as the wide receiver position goes.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard because if you can't trade for one of those guys, then Godwin, in my opinion, is way more valuable because I think they need to add a wide receiver 1 unless Tet McMillan is the way they're going in the draft. But you got to get some more pass catchers on here. So if it's not addressed in the trade market, but I personally don't think it's likely. I honestly, if I were to have ranked T. Higgins and Chris Godwin, I would have said it was more unlikely that Chris Godwin came here. I didn't think the Bengals were going to do T. Higgins dirty and tag him. Maybe they still won't. Maybe they'll put a transition tag on him where they can trade him. But them even tagging him and getting him $27 million leaves so much guaranteed money on the table, long-term deals. It's crazy that they did that, especially because they know they have to pay Jamar Chase. And Jamar Chase is going to be like, oh, I'll take $30 million and you can give $30 million to him. No way. I don't see it happening. So, but moving on to more of the tackle position. Now, the number one guy for us is Cam Robinson. Okay. Currently he's with the Vikings, started at left tackle this year for him, was drafted for the Jaguars. So kind of didn't have that good year or those couple good years in Jacksonville. People were like, oh, he's not so good. Revitalized his career with Minnesota last year. Like I thought he was really, really good for Minnesota. So I would like him. One thing that I love about Cam Robinson. Now, if you guys have been following the mock drafts and stuff, a lot of tackles this year in the NFL draft are projected as better guards. Their arm length isn't very good. Both Cam Robinson and another guy we'll mention here shortly in Ronnie Stanley have 35 plus inch arms, 35 and a half for Cam Robinson, 35 and 5/8 for Ronnie Stanley. That is what a left tackle should look like. Length on the edge. They're experienced. A rookie might come in and not even be ready to play. These guys had great seasons last year where they were both top 30 in PFF grades. I like both of their additions, probably Robinson a little bit more because he's younger, but Stanley would be another good one too.
Yeah, but both good options. The only thing I worry about with Stanley is are you gonna give him the bag and he's gonna end up turning into a Tyron Smith type deal where he's fallen off, he's got injuries, he's not himself. He did have a good year this year. And like you said, both the Cam Robinson, the size with those two guys is elite. That's what you want. That's certainly what you want. Another guy that I think would be kind of interesting, and people have been kind of starting to mention him a little bit, is Alaric Jackson. I mean, another guy who's just left tackle. He's young. He's 26. He's still kind of up and coming. I think he's a guy that would be a little bit of a better value pick if you are spending a lot of money on some other guys and you say, hey, we still want to address left tackle. We want to get somebody younger. This is a guy that I think can hold that spot for us. So I think he'd be a good option as well.
No, I like Alaric Jackson too. The one concern for me as I'm looking at his mock draftable, and I'm not going to lie, I didn't know this until I looked this up. He's got 32 and a half inch arms. That's below that is like Will Campbell, what we're talking about, why people don't want to take Will Campbell there. He's going to be a little big
difference between those guys, between the three guys we're talking about.
That's a huge difference. Huge difference.
Two different, completely different styles almost.
Yeah. A younger guy who's a little bit shorter, who is going to be a little bit cheaper. But I told Cole before we got on here, why are the Patriots going to be penny pinchers? Now, they did say they might take the Washington Commanders route where they're going to sign a bunch of good players instead of 3 or 4 great ones. I still think you got to get a big name in here. And if that's Ronnie Stanley or Cam Robinson with that elite length on the edge, we all know that Mike Vrabel loves building in the trenches. it's a no-brainer to go out and get, in my opinion, one of Ronnie Stanley or Cam Robinson, and then you fall back on a Jackson if he's, you miss out on one of those two guys. But it's like the length is a no-brainer, the experience is a no-brainer. Those things for me, for Robinson and Stanley, would make it, in my opinion, a home run pick or a home run signing for the Patriots to protect Drake May's blind side.
Yeah, I mean, you got to address that position. It's huge. They have so many different needs that they might not be able to fill them all this offseason. It's probably going to take a couple years. It's starting to look like that might be the receiver position that gets pushed back, which stinks because we have been doing this same song and dance year after year after year, trying to get a receiver. And the truth is, unless you draft one and develop him or trade for him, you're probably not getting him. Elite wide receivers don't hit free agency. They get tagged, they get traded, whatever happens. So it's probably going to have to be trade market for that. There's not great options at tackle necessarily either. Like, you're not seeing any guys who's a stud left tackle who you're like, oh, this guy, we're going to throw a bag at him. He's going to be our left tackle for the next 7-8 years. Like, you don't see that either. There's kind of, like you said, the older guys who have the more ideal size. And then there's one option who's a little bit cheaper, not necessarily great arm length, but he's been improving. He's better and he's younger. So it's kind of like picking your styles there. And there's not great options early in the draft either. So tackle, receiver, it honestly is not the best offseason if you need an elite member of one of those groups. And we need an elite member of both.
I totally agree. So stick on the offensive side of the ball. If you guys follow us on Instagram, you saw my post a couple days ago. By the time you guys are watching this, it was a couple days ago. With T. Higgins off the market, Trey Smith, in my opinion, becomes the number one priority at any position, any side of the ball, in my opinion. Yes, it's an interior offensive lineman. We need tackles a little bit more, but I just think if you spend a bag on Trey Smith and spend money on Ronnie Stanley or Cam Robinson, all of a sudden let's say it's Cam Robinson left tackle. Trey Smith is going to be left guard because he played that in college. He hasn't played it in the Chiefs because he's been behind Joe Thuney. He's played right guard, but you can move him back to left guard. You can have Cole Strange or David Andrews at center, Michael Winu into guard, and then you figure out the tackle, whether it's through the draft or maybe Caden Wallace develops. Then you focus solely on the draft on pass catchers if you don't trade for one, or you go get a elite edge rusher. You can take Travis Hunter at 4 there. It makes more sense. It's like, if you figure out the offensive line in free agency, in my opinion, it's better than the draft right now. That's just where I think it is. And I think there, in my opinion, with Drake May on a rookie deal, I have no problem paying 2 guards $20 million. We saw how the Eagles got pressure on Patrick Mahomes. It was in the interior. And people were going to say, oh, well, Trey Smith was part of that interior offensive line. I don't care. Give me Big Mike and give me Trey Smith at both of my guards. Give me a veteran and David Andrews. That interior offensive line is great. And yes, we still have to figure out the left tackle and right tackle position, but I want Trey Smith here. He's the best offensive lineman, regardless of position on the board. You need that here in New England. You need to add more, better pass pros, better run blockers in, this front seven in the offensive line. And Trey Smith is a no-brainer for me also.
Yeah, and it certainly wasn't only Trey Smith that was getting cooked. I mean, Joe Thuney was getting beat over and over again on the edge.
Creed Humphrey was getting cooked too, and that dude's an all-pro.
Yeah. Travis Kelce was getting cooked at tight end over there trying to block.
Easy.
Yeah. Greatest tight end of all time. Yeah. Okay. Trey Smith is fantastic. And like you said, if he goes back to left guard, his natural position, that's exciting. If Will Campbell tests well and you draft him and you got Will Campbell and Trey Smith and Cole Stranger, David Andrews on Wenu, and then we'll see. We'll see if we can get some production at right tackle from Caden Wallace this year. You're looking a lot better. And it's not ideal, like you said, to spend 20 per year on 2 guards, but there's no other really time to do it other than the rookie contract. If you're not going to be paying a receiver a bunch of money, you got to pay somebody, and no better way to do that than protect him. Ideally, it'd be left tackle, but you just got to get better along the entire offensive line. And he would certainly be a guy who did that. 0 sacks allowed in 2024. He had 81 PFF run blocking grade, which was 10th among all guards. He's a good player. He's a really good player, and he's been improving. And I think that the youth is one of the most exciting things. You don't see anybody near as talented as him at this age on the market at all on the offensive line side of the ball, or really offensive side of the ball in general. So it's a good combination of youth, talent, and availability on our line to where he can play right guard or left guard if you end up wanting Onwenu at tackle and him at right guard. So I think this would be a great signing, and certainly the top priority offensively left on the market right now with Higgins gone.
Yeah, and it's like, why wouldn't you give Cam Robinson a 3-year deal and then give Trey Smith a 5-year deal because he's 25, let him lock him up till he's 30. It gives you a little more time to figure out, hey, maybe in the second round next year we take a left tackle in a better tackle class, or 2 years down the road. It's like, this tackle class I like. There's a lot of guys that I really like, but it's the length issues. It's some of those things. So it's like, why not sign both an interior guy and a left tackle? I'm not saying push it down the road, but it gives you a little more time to maybe find that cornerstone left tackle. Not that Cam Robinson can't be that, but because of his age, you go and find a 23-year-old left tackle in 2 drafts. Once Drake May is going to make 60 million, then you go find a rookie deal and find that guy on the line that, you can build around, So it's a big need for me to address the offensive line, in my opinion, in free agency. Because if you go into the draft, not have addressed or not even adding a single starter on the offensive line, I'm really concerned how this offensive line gets better. Yeah, Will Campbell, I think, is a great offensive lineman, but yeah, it's just I want to see them address it early in free agency, and I want to see them get one of the big names, and then I'm going to feel better about how they approach the draft in whatever way they do.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think there's not a whole lot of great options. As much money as we have to spend, you'd hope there'd be kind of just some better options in general at the positions of need. But these are certainly some of the best guys here, and there's still trade market, still draft. So we'll see how they end up wanting to build this roster. But I think defensive side of the ball, we might see a little bit more excitement when we do that video upcoming. As far as, I think there's some guys there that combine more talent and age, where it's a little more intriguing than some of these options outside of Trey Smith.
Yeah, totally agree. Defensive side is there's a little bit bigger names. It's weird to say, right? Yeah. But yeah, I mean,
there's not a lot of great free agents for the offense. Like,
yeah,
you get some bigger named star guys on defense.
Just not a lot of big name offensive guys hit the market, man. I mean, you don't see 25-year-old left tackles hit free agency if they're elite. Tristan Wirfs doesn't hit free agency. Those guys don't hit it because they're locked up. They are locked up.
Panay Sewell, like any of those guys.
Like Joe Alt will never hit free agency. That he'll never hit it. You will never get to see him. So yeah, the draft is so important, but you might have to fill it in because of a weaker tackle class at the top. Heck, it would be a blessing if the Patriots could find one in the 3rd round. It's just, you can't bank on that. We've tried that in the last couple of years.
That's why draft and develop is honestly so important. That's why we're in the position we're in. You got to get these star players. Don't leave their teams often, and if they do, it's not free agency typically. So you got to get these guys and draft them and have good players on cheap deals. That's how you get to these places. Good quarterback and surround them with good players every year, up and coming. I mean, the Chiefs have had a bunch of guys who weren't looked at as necessarily top 5, top 10 picks who end up being great. I mean, Trent McDuffie, you got Nick Bolton, you got a bunch of guys who have just shown out and played well for them. So, of course, we let Joe Thuney hit the market when, and that's bit us in the ass for forever since then. So just, you gotta draft and develop. It's extremely important.
Totally agree. Couldn't agree more. So appreciate all the support, guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment down below your thoughts. Maybe is there another guy that you'd like to target on the offensive side, another receiver, any of those things. So appreciate all the support. Make sure you turn the notification bell on. Mock draft Mondays every week. If we go live, we'll be coming at you guys with a live mock draft here shortly, probably on a weekend, 3 or 4 round one. First one, both of us. So appreciate all the support, guys. And until next time, we will talk to you guys later.